Hello, hello, hello. Today I am here with Anne, and we are talking all about personal growth and Holy Spirit blessings. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, I am Sabrina Victoria, your host here at Her Talk Show. And if you are not already subscribed, girl, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. These podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
We already have so many people jumping down live. Thank you so much for being here. If you are listening live, welcome. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you drop hashtag replay into the comments so we can send you some love. We have had over 500 women grace this stage. We are adding another one to the list today. And Carr, raised in Southern New Jersey, has 3 siblings and was married in 1984 to her college sweetheart. She has 4 children and 6 grandchildren. With a degree in fashion design, she lived abundantly in a creative lifestyle, discovering freedom from alcohol and other substances in 2012, launched the Holy Spirit in her life, and she's entered into a drastic and deeply personal journey since then. Through much hardship and miracle blessings, she has found a peace and joy in her life that moves her courageously into each day. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's great to be here. Really excited to join you.
Yes, I am so excited to have you here and so excited for this topic. I love conversations around transformation.
Yes, yes. I mean, life in itself, we're always growing, always moving, always either moving forward, stagnant, or looking behind. I mean, it's the journey it's such a blessing, and I've had a lot of shifting in the last decade of my life. Just really grateful to share this conversation with you.
Yes. So I would love to kind of start off our conversation diving into when the journey started, right? Because we're all like leading our life and we think we know things. We're like, we know lots of things. And then something happens. And then we dive into this whole other area where we didn't even know existed. So I would love for you to share what that was for you. What was the pivot, or maybe there was a couple in your world where you started to pivot from one mindset into another?
That's a great question. So the first thought that came to mind was I was working. I had a small business back in the 90s. I had 2 young children, and I made custom wedding gowns and custom party dresses for people right outside of the Philadelphia area. And one of my clients brought in some, I think they were cassette tapes at that point, and it was either Wayne Dyer or one of those motivational guys. And I remember listening to these tapes and thinking, oh my gosh, there's such a whole different way of thinking. And I was in my late 20s. I was in my late 20s at that point. And then shortly after that, we moved from Southern Jersey to Northern Vermont. We lived in the Burlington, Vermont area for about 6 years. While I was there, I ended up connecting with a group of people that were very Tony Robbins. They actually had a franchise where they would facilitate video enhanced Tony Robbins seminars. So that period of time was like a rapid growth. I did a lot of work with this group of people. We actually, met Tony, and that was a huge stepping stone for me. And that ran through like the mid 90s. And then had a couple more kids later, late 90s, and then one in 2000. So my life kind of at that point slowed down in a sense of I was really, caring for little people again. So I had 2 teenagers and 2 young little boys. So things kind of slowed down, and that was I can't say it went to a complete standstill. I still was very aware of my thoughts, but not in that self-growth period from about, I don't know, 98 until probably 2010. So a good dozen years, I kind of just plugged along, being a mom, doing the mom thing.
Yes, 100%. And then what was the pivot? Was there a pivot that pivoted you back in?
So I started marketing blinds. My husband's like, Ann, you got to go out and sell something, do something, and get some work going. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So we ordered all these blinds. Hunter Douglas, I repped their product line. In 2004, I ordered all these samples, and my husband's like, well, what are you doing now? They sat in our dining room for probably, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So he's like, you just go out and you knock on doors and you sell blinds. I was like, oh, looking back, I think that was a huge stepping stone for confidence building. So that was like 2004, 2005. And I really catapulted in the whole sales direction of my life, and realized that, the relationship building and, getting out, knocking on doors, and the creative part was very exciting for me, because I have the degree in fashion design. So I loved going into people's homes, and we would install too. So we did the whole thing. That carried me through until about 2012. The market actually shifted in 2009. And by 2012, I was out of selling blinds, and actually at that point sinking in a lot of areas of my life. Like, I was noticing, I was starting to see I had a perspective that my family had this beautiful white picket fence around our home, and everything looked great, and we were all doing great. The white picket fence started to chip. And I remember being like, oh my God, what do I do? How do I make everything? How do I keep it all together? It's falling apart. It's crumbling. And I was falling at that point.
Wow. 2009. What happened where all of a sudden blinds weren't necessary?
There was a shift in the real estate market. And I'm not real savvy on that part of the journey, but that we had the crash, the real estate market kind of went kaputs, and did interest rates go up? I don't remember all the fine details, but people weren't spending the money like they used to. When I was selling blinds at one point, people were handing me $10,000 and $15,000 checks for deposits, and I'd be like, oh my God, that was a deposit, So by 2010, it was really, I was scraping to hold the business together, and had a lot of debt at that point too, because the income wasn't there. So and then my older two children at this point were having some real hardships happening, and I have the 4 children, so ages 37 down to 23. They were in their early 20s, and life was really throwing them some side curves. So it was really, really a difficult time for me in the family, trying to, how do I fix this? How do I support? How do I, even walk through this without, I could have easily crumbled. I grew up in a family of, my mom was very loving and very encouraging in a lot of ways, but it taught us to bounce back. And my father too he had his own business, so he was very resilient too. But I'll tell you, that was a real hard time, and I was struggling with my identity at that point.
And then what happened?
So, let's see. My youngest he was 12. And I had a friend who's no longer in my life at this point in my journey. Another story to be told there, but she asked me. She said, "Hey, come check out this meeting with me." And so I first went to this 12-step meeting on recovery. And I remember sitting in the meeting going, "Oh man, well, they have that problem, and they have that problem, and that's their problem." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't have any of these problems." Ended up within a few months later at an AA meeting. And I'm like, they have that, they have that. And then slowly but surely, those three fingers started to point back at me. And I was able to say, oh my God, what is my part? And I realized at that point that I was really a binge drinker. I was somebody who, I didn't drink every day. I didn't drink, you know, maybe a couple times a month. Sometimes not at all. Through my pregnancies, I didn't drink. But when I drank, I was the girl who shut the party down. That's how I played. I didn't want the party to end. I'm the last girl standing. And the next day were the repercussions. I'd have people saying, I can't believe you said that, or I can't believe you did that. And I'd be like, what? What?
Hmm.
So that was a huge wake up for me to see, like, wow, I wasn't owning my life 100%. I grew up in a family, bless my mom. She's been gone 15, 17 years. She would tuck things under the kitchen basket. Your report card came in, it wasn't good. She'd stick it under the basket. Don't worry about it. And I just didn't know how to deal with things. So I didn't. I would just be like, it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. Let it go. And I stuffed a lot. I stuffed my feelings. I stuffed my responsibility. And I didn't really see it until after I got sober and started working that specific 12-step program. And what's really cool about this 12-step program, Sabrina, is each step leads you to the next. And, the first one, admitting you're powerless, that's tough because I think all of us at some degree want to say, I can, I've got this, I'm in charge, I will resolve this. And ultimately, yes, we have responsibility. Yes, we can take action to create resolution. But in many areas, we are powerless and we have to let that go. And for me, getting sober helped me see how powerful God was in my life and that I had God in this little box. I mean, I was so I grew up in Episcopal, just a simple church, Episcopal church. And this is how God was. This is what you do. This is how it works. And when I got sober, I started to see things so differently and realize there was so much a broader view. And for me at this point in my life, God is just beyond my wildest dreams. I take this one verse in Ephesians that says that he can do far more than you can ever expect or request in your wildest dreams. And that is how God works in my life at this point. But I walked through, 5, 6, 7 years of, trying to fix and control, even in the early part of that recovery program. Yeah.
So was this your daughter who introduced this to you?
It was actually an old friend.
A friend. Okay.
Yeah, somebody that I no longer, I grew out of that friendship. I no longer, I have a girlfriend that I did some healing work with. I do a lot of alternative healing. And she said to me, you stayed longer than the lesson that you needed to learn. So that relationship was really pivotal in a lot of growth for my life. I learned how to do some public speaking through that friendship because we did network marketing together. And we did a lot of public speaking, which was really, really confident building. But I did stay longer than the lesson that I needed to learn from that person. But I'm super grateful for that experience, though. I mean, without her in my life, I don't know if I would have come to this place that I'm in now, where I'm able to serve and help so many people, and I'm a much better listener. I'm just so much. There's so much to be grateful for that season that I went through.
Yeah, I know you talk a lot about how you no longer force outcomes or try to control people. Where does this stem from, and how has that helped you?
That's a great question. And, probably in the last 3 years, it's really catapulted. I didn't realize what a control freak I was. I just didn't know. and I think we don't know what we don't know. And it's very hard to see in our own life, our part or our part of the story. Through experiencing hardship within my family, within my grown children, I've had to walk through some very difficult seasons of their lives with them. And, I tried to fix things, and I tried to, push things through. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this, and this is what's going to happen. And I'd find myself, running to starting this process, trying to fix. And all of a sudden somebody else is saying, what are you doing? Look at what you just created. And I'm like, what? And through enough obstacles, trying to push doors open, I'd love to get into some deeper miracle work and share with you some of the things that have happened because of that. But I want to be cognizant of the privacy of these beloved people in my life. But I have experienced so many more miracles because one thing that I've discovered, I allow people to receive their blessing rather than step in and think, I've got the answer, let me fix this, or let me prevent something from happening. I've allowed things to happen that were that were hard to watch, or that somebody had to walk through that was like, oh my God, they're going to be in such pain over that. I've allowed it, and that has been the blessing that's helped them to get through it and to find freedom. Mm-hmm. So, I tell the girls that I coached in today's journey that sometimes the blessing is letting somebody walk through something very hard and very dark. And so I no longer try to push or open doors that aren't mine to open, and God makes it pretty clear pretty quickly. So yeah, that's that.
I feel like that realization would create some lightness. Because I feel like when we're always trying to control, there's this like constant need to like be doing all the time. So you're kind of like relinquishing like weight. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I feel like my spirit is so much lighter. Like I don't have that chronic, like gut wrenching burden. And I gotta tell you, when I was hanging with that woman that helped me, in the early part of recovery, I walked through probably 3 years of a knot in my gut. Mm-hmm. When I finally released her into the kingdom and I just said, I'm done with that, I had this freedom come over my gut, because that's where I carry my stress. Mm. And so I do notice that I don't have nearly that amount. Now, do I? Yes, I'm a human being. So yes, I have stress that comes into that middle portion of my body. That's where I carry it. But it's a lot less than it used to be. And I notice it so much easier. And I'll be like, all right, what's going on? Mm. What do I need to address? Is there someone or something that I need to confront? Or is there something that I need to let go?
That's good.
Yeah.
Earlier, you were talking about how when you went to a meeting or two in the beginning, there was a lot of like, they have this problem, they have this problem. And then you said, and then eventually I noticed there was some fingers pointing back at me. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how living in the truth and really seeing your I don't want to say fault. What word am I looking for? Your, like, where whatever issues are coming your way, how you can take the power back, you can make changes, and you can pivot yourself versus blaming everyone around you.
Yeah. Okay. So in AA, they say character defects. We all have character defects. We're all broken and, at fault. We're just imperfect, perfect vessels. God has created us to be perfect in his image. And yet we're imperfect this side of the kingdom, at least. I believe that when the new earth comes, there will be perfection everywhere. But what I learned, years ago, and I still have moments where I'm like, ooh, and I'm like, no. Like I want to, I don't always want to take responsibility. But what I've learned in taking responsibility, there is such a freedom that comes. Um, I grew up, I grew up in a family of, I don't know, we were storytellers, okay, to put it gently, to put it kindly. Lots of fibbing and non-truth, lots of little lies. And so I thought that was okay. I grew up thinking that's just the way it is. You don't always have to tell the truth. And so I never really thought of myself that way. But when I finally got sober and I started to see how I personally sometimes would tell these lies or live in non-truth, this is humbling. Like I didn't want to admit it, but I was a manipulator. I was sneaky. I used to go into we lived in the Jersey area, Southern Jersey, and I'd go into Wawa to get a cup of tea, and I'd grab 2 tea bags for 1 cup of tea. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. There really is, because I was getting 1 cup of tea. I don't need 2 tea bags. That is in some form taking something that's not mine.
Mm.
And so when I finally saw that and realized that it wasn't integrous to who I wanted to be, that started to shift who I was and how I showed up in the world. And I no longer show up that way. And because I don't show up that way, there is such a freedom that comes in my spirit, because I know, number one, who I am, and number two, who I want to continue to be. So I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of went off track a little bit, but yeah, that's what I received from it.
Yeah, I think that, when you can start to take ownership of your life and where you are in your life, it allows you the ability to be able to control yourself, your reactions, how you are versus everything around you.
One of the guys I work with in this 12-step program, we talk about being actors, not reactors. And, for many years I was a reactor because I was afraid. I walked in a lot of fear, always thinking I didn't know enough. They knew more. They were able to see things clearer than me, better than me. And so I would react like, oh my God, they must think this about me. I don't worry about that like I used to. Thank you, God. Because that's a place to get stuck in, and it's not productive to worry about what other people think. Do I on occasion? Yes. I'm a human being, but for the most part, I'm pretty quickly aware, like, oh, I'm worried about what that person's thinking about me. Why? I have a dear husband. I've been married for almost 40 years, and we've been together 42. He is a very strong, confident, assertive. He's the kind of guy you don't mess with. And, we've both blessed each other in different ways, because I tend to be more compassionate, compatible. I have a very easygoing spirit. I'm not somebody who wants to fight, but I have learned that sometimes a good fight we learn and grow from. And he has taught me that. That's been one of the greatest gifts from this man, this dear soul that I'm married to, because of his courage and his strength and his don't mess with me type of attitude. I also have one of my 4 children who is the same way, who has equally helped me to become a better person because of her stand in life. She's my only daughter. She's very much like my husband, and they have really both. Once I got through the meekness and the fear of who they were, and not wanting them to control me, because I allowed that. I don't know if anybody out there listening to this has ever felt or ever allowed people to control you. I did. I was that person who was timid, meek, afraid. And I let people control certain things in my life. Sometimes knowingly, most of the time not.
Hmm.
So now at this point in my life, I'm super grateful for these two beautiful people in my life that have taught me, how to stand up for myself and how to live a better, truer version of who God designed me to be so that I can be that blessing and pay it forward to others.
Yeah. Do you feel as if your journey into sobriety has helped you be a better wife and a better mother?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Some of the greatest gifts for me have been knowing myself more. I mean, first of all, God. God has just opened the world to me in a whole new perspective. But yes, helping me to know myself more, working with others. The 12-step program is just an incredible program. And I don't I don't go to nearly as many meetings as I used to because I found a new way. And the women that I work with, I don't do AA with, but I do 12 steps with. So I really, I love that program. I love how it's helped me discover truly who I am. And between that and finding a deeper relationship with God, my life has catapulted, and I'm so thankful.
That's phenomenal. So
Yeah.
how many years has it been?
Heading into my 12th year. Yeah.
Wow.
The
How was
first three,
your Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, the first three were an absolute mess. Absolute mess. I mean, oh my God. The first year, oh God, it's humbling, but I literally jumped out of a first floor window, broke my foot over an argument with somebody that I got afraid of. I mean, I looked at them. I'm sober. I looked at them. They looked at me. I looked at them. There was a door I could have easily walked through. I looked over at the window and I I jumped out the window and broke some bones in my foot. And I found myself in counseling at that point with one of my beloved. And it was really what catapulted me into seeing more of my part, because we all
Was
play.
was this like a conversation around you seeing yourself or feeling things or emotions and just not knowing how to react to it, like not knowing
It,
how to
it
regulate
was,
that?
it was around a decision that I made that was not integrous.
Hmm.
And it really offended that person. And I got afraid. And yeah, and I was still in such denial at that point in my life. I was still with that first, she was actually my sponsor, the first person that, helped me into the rooms. Um, and yeah, it was, oh man, it was messy.
I bet. Anytime you break anything, it's messy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So awkward.
Oh, oh. And looking back, I had one gentleman in the rooms of AA at that point. Actually, it was probably 7 or 8 years later. He says to me, "When you first walked into the rooms, Ann," he's like, "I was afraid of you." And
Wow.
I'm like, "You were afraid of me? Me?" He's like, "You were crazy." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I probably was." Yeah, I know I was. Because I had my guns out. And I'm like, can you believe what they did? They. Yeah, that's who I was.
Yeah. It's so nice to know that transformation is possible. Because sometimes we look around and we're like,
Yeah.
but knowing that under the right circumstances, and once that person has learned their lesson, their personal journey can kick in for them, and they can have that transformation too. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the lesson that you've learned about life. What would you say when you look back at all of the things? What would you say has been your number one lesson about life?
It's so funny because I just heard that song by John Lennon, where it's like "Live and Let Live." I forget the name. What's the name of that song? Do you know? Hold on. Um, oh, Well, that's the phrase that I'm thinking. Like, it's other people's lives are not my business to jump into. That's been my greatest message that I've received from God, in the sense of, like, yes, I can be here to pray. Yes, I can be here to serve and to help, but I'm not here to fix other people's lives.
Hmm.
And for so many years, I thought that I knew way more than everybody else. In certain areas, I also felt that I knew nothing. But the more I've come to realize how little I know, the more I'm able to learn.
Yeah.
And it's that's been a huge blessing. I wish I could think of what that song was, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
been one of the greatest lessons.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that, and I feel like that's become one of my most powerful traits, is to constantly be recognizing how little I know. Has really helped catapult several different areas of my life. As we are wrapping up here, I would love for you to share with Her Nation what you do and how you help all the humans.
Awesome. So I'm going to share two parts of what I do. Number one is, I think I already shared some of this. I do help about a half a dozen women on a weekly basis just live their better selves. And that's through 12-step work. And sometimes they'll come to me and be like, oh my God, you're this and you're that. Thank you. You're so good. And I'm like, no, 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 it's not me. It's God. God's just working through me. So that keeps me humble. So that probably is my number one area of service where I give back, because I don't earn anything by doing this. I love doing it. I love watching these women grow and change and catapult into who God has designed them to be. So that's my serving area of life. And then over the last dozen years, my husband and I have owned alternative properties, second homes. And so we've rented on a part-time basis, a couple of them full-time and a couple on short-term rental basis. So about a year ago, this home that we're in now, we built, and we decided to do short-term rental. So we launched the Airbnb in the spring of this past year, actually June of 23. And I'm in the process right now of putting together a direct website so that I can build a small property management company. I want to do exclusive boutique type properties, ranging not real large properties, maybe 3 and 4 bedroom. We're looking to purchase another property in the next year or so. We're actually building a home next door to this. We're going to break the ground on that in October. So yeah, this is our next little adventure, and I'm really excited because I love hospitality. I'm discovering in this journey, in this launching of this Airbnb, how much I love hosting people, serving people, making comfortable spaces for people. And because of my background in design and fashion, I'm going to also offer, hopefully at some level, staging services, helping people decorate their homes. Like I said, I'm in the early process of developing the website. I've got a company I'm working with. They're helping me build it. So I'm really excited about this.
Beautiful. Congrats
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
all of that, for sure. And I feel like that goes right along with you being able to design and make people happy, and
Yes.
the things that they're looking at visually. That's so awesome. What are your big dreams?
Big dreams. Oh gosh. Well, my number one dream, and it's not even a dream because I know it's going to be, when I get to the other side, all my beloved are going to be there. That's just like my heart, whenever I sit and quietly ponder this new earth, that this is where my faith takes me, that all my people will be there, and it's just going to be wonderful. But on the other side of that, if you're talking, on this earth, in this kingdom, my dreams to watch my children prosper. I have 4 children who are all very driven in their own goals and their own. My oldest is getting ready to start. He's doing microgreens. He's going to start a little microgreen business. My third born has a drone business that he's launching, and the other 2 are very creative in their own ways. So moving forward, watching my family grow, I've got a bunch of grandkids, and watching them, their lives, living their dreams, that just makes my heart shine.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. It was so awesome having you on. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your story openly. And I think that this is the type of stuff, these are the type of stories that really allow individuals to recognize that it is a journey. It isn't just a overnight pivot, and there is ups and downs throughout, any type of transformation, not just sobriety, but any type of transformation that anyone takes on. There is some time, and it's a continuum.
Truly.
It's a continuum, for sure.
Amen.
Yes. Well, those of you that are listening live and on the replay, if you resonate with Ann and all the goodness that she shares, can we find you on social media, Ann? Where are you at? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, I'm God's Girl 333 on Instagram, and Ann Carr on Facebook. I'm still developing everything else. So
beautiful. I love it. Well, we love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure we all continue to rise. So thank you for being here. Ann, any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Sabrina, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for being an inspiration for women. We are in need of, continual being lifted up, and you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes.
That brings us to the end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you, Ann, for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us all. To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way by having conversations just like this. Until next time.